Hello there guys, welcome back to another video on the Porsche Boxster S. Now then, in this video I'm going to be going over all of the common problems, the potential issues that you will have on your Porsche 986 Boxster. Now before we get into things, make sure you give this video a like. It really does help me out. It shows your appreciation and it lets me know that you want to see more videos on this car. So then let's get right into things. Let's address the huge elephant in the room first. Let's talk about the IMS bearing, or the intermediate shaft bearing. Is this really a common problem on these cars? Well, it can be, but I don't think it's as big of a problem as people make it out to be. I don't think it's as common, nowhere near as common as people talk about it being. Now, there is two different types of IMS bearing. There is the first dual row bearing, which is actually what this car has. If your car is a 2000 or pre-2000, it should come with the dual row IMS bearing. That is actually the stronger of the two. After 2000 came along a single row IMS bearing. That is the one that is more prone to fail. So if you do have the dual row IMS bearing, just know that that is the stronger of the two, and you're probably never going to have to replace it. Now, have they failed? Yes, I'm sure they have. But generally, if you look after the car, if you know, make sure it's warmed up properly before revving the thing out, make sure it has regular oil changes. Generally, with the dual row IMS bearing, you're going to be absolutely fine. With that being said though, if you are swapping out the clutch on one of these cars, it's a perfect opportunity to access the IMS bearing itself. You can either swap it out for a factory one, or you can choose to upgrade it to a revised version. And so, like I said, when you are swapping out the clutch or maybe your flywheel, it's a perfect opportunity to get in there. There's going to be no extra labor involved, just the cost of the parts for that IMS bearing kit. Now then, let's talk about oil leaks, something that I have experienced myself. So for those that know, I bought this car very cheap with a huge oil leak. I think I've identified where the oil leak is coming from, and it's coming from one of the timing chain tensioners, the IMS timing chain tensioner. Now, why does a timing chain tensioner leak, you may be wondering? Well, there is two seals on a timing chain tensioner. There is a rubber O-ring that can fail, but more commonly there is a washer, an aluminium washer, that corrode. Because the timing chain tensioners are directly underneath the car, they get exposed to the elements, get exposed to water, salt, all of the road grime, and the washers themselves, being aluminium, they just corrode and causes a leak. So if you have an oil leak, definitely worth cleaning off and checking your timing chain tensioners. Another potential oil leak is your rear main seal. Now, this is something that many people talk about, but in my opinion, it's nowhere near as common or as bad as people make it out to be. Again, if you do have a rear main seal leak, perfect opportunity to swap that out when you are doing the clutch and flywheel. Another potential oil leak then is on the spark plug tubes. So with this being a Boxster engine, of course you have 3 cylinders on either side. Now the spark plug tubes are firmly in place with a seal on either side, basically just an O-ring. Those O-rings can fail over time and cause an oil leak. They can cause oil to get over your spark plugs and oil to get over your ignition coils as well. So when you are in there swapping out your spark plugs and ignition coils, it's a good idea for safekeeping just to swap out these seals at the same time. They're not expensive, but it's just worth doing just to prevent any issues in the future. So then, another potential engine issue that you may come across. Now, you may think this is something, you know, terribly bad, but it's not as bad as what you think. So if you find out that you have blue smoke coming from your tailpipes, you may think that you have bore score and your engine needs a full rebuild. Well, I'm here to say that these engines, especially in the 986s, they don't suffer from bore score nowhere near as much as in the 987s. So if you do notice that you have some blue smoke from your tailpipes, then it's worth checking if your air oil separator, the CCV system, crankcase ventilation system, is functioning properly as it should. If that has failed, then it's just going to be letting oil through the intake and obviously burning it off, thus creating blue smoke. The next potential issue then, and it's again something that I have experienced firsthand, is a problem with the roof. Now don't get me wrong, this roof functions perfectly as it should. The roofs can actually fail, as you know, in terms of the mechanism can come off of the guides, and that may need putting back on. But more importantly, the rear window, because these are plastic, or in my case it is plastic, you can actually upgrade this to the later glass type, but in the plastic rear windows they are very common for splitting. As you can see, mine is here, it's held together by some lovely duct tape there. Very common for it to split, especially come the winter time. If you go to put your roof down and your window has frozen, it makes it very brittle. You'll fold it and then it will just crack very easily. Now you may be thinking, well, why do you even need to put the roof down come winter time? Well, you have to put the roof down on this thing, or I guess partially down, to access the engine. So if you're doing any work on top of the engine, or if you're maybe swapping out your air filter or such, then of course you need this roof in the service position. So if it is winter time, this thing is frozen, either wait till another day where it's not frozen, or you know, pour some warm water on it just to make it a little bit more supple. So the next potential problem that you may find on these cars is with the ignition barrel. So if you find that you insert your key, or maybe you have already inserted your key and it won't remove, it's probably the ignition switch itself. They can go bad, and you'll know if it's gone bad because you won't be able to remove your key. Luckily though, this is a relatively easy fix, very easy to swap these over. Another potential issue on the interior then is just under the passenger seat there is a module. Now this controls things like your immobilizer, your alarm, central locking, and much more. Now what happens with this module underneath the seat is it gets wet, and as you know, electrics and water, they do not mix well. And so what you'll end up having to do is either repair that module or replace it, get another one programmed to the car. Now the main cause for that module going bad is water not being able to drain properly. So underneath here there is a drain port. If this gets clogged up with leaves, that will not be able to drain properly as it should. There are various different drain points, as well as some in the front beneath the scuttle panel. They need to be clear. Again, if they're not, they will overflow and take out your electrics. And for the sake of just clearing those drains, taking out all of the leaves, the detritus, and making sure water is flowing through as it should, you know, towards the bottom of the car and not inside of the car, then that's just going to save you a whole bunch of headaches come the future. So make sure you keep those drains nice and free. And now the final potential common issue with these cars is to do with the front radiators. So behind here we have the engine coolant radiator, and we also have the AC condensers as well. Now what happens is these like to corrode. Again, these get blocked up with leaves and detritus. It just sits at the bottom. Obviously when aluminium gets wet and it stays wet, it is very easy for it to corrode. So if you notice that you have a big build-up of leaves and dirt at the bottom of these radiators, then make sure they are clean, because like I said, they will corrode in no time. Obviously it can take out your AC system, your gas will leak out, and it can take out your engine cooling system as well. Your coolant will leak out. Speaking on coolant, I know I said that was the last common problem. There's actually another one regarding the cooling system. I'm just going to pop the rear trunk, and that is to do with the coolant reservoir and also the cap as well. So these caps, they can leak themselves. There is an updated design which I may get for this. This is actually fine. It hasn't started leaking yet. It's a low mileage car, only on 65,000 miles, but these caps, they do come in an updated version which are not prone to leak, but the coolant reservoir, the header tanks themselves, these are known for cracking and separating. Again, you'll have a huge oil leak in your rear boot area here. So if you do notice that you're losing coolant, definitely worth checking this. Okay then, so there we go. That is all of the common problems on the Porsche 986 Boxster S. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Let me know if I've kind of missed anything down in the comment section below. I want to thank you all for watching. Give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one.